What's up guys, Chris here, back in No Man's Sky with a brand new video, and today let's take a look at 10 things that you probably didn't know that you can do in No Man's Sky in 2020. These are just some of the things that I found out either by randomly stumbling upon them, by messing with the game's mechanics, or simply from some of you guys who have shared them with me, which is really awesome because we can pretty much share all of this knowledge and enjoy this fine game. So without further ado, let's just jump in it, and as always, a thumbs up on this video would be super appreciated. Let's start with an awesome tip that I got from one of you guys. Unfortunately, I am unable to find the reply nor the name of the person who told me this, so if you are still watching this, well, you can just go ahead and reply to me and I will pin your comment to this video. But otherwise, this method involves getting a free cooking processor from the anomaly mission called Tame Wild Fauna and not having to spend the 10 salvage data that it otherwise costs to unlock from the space anomaly. So it's a pretty simple process. All you have to do is go on the Nexus and start searching for any mission over there that lists Tame Wild Fauna as its objective, and during this mission you will get access for free to a cooking processor. So go in, build like 3 cooking processors during that mission, finish it, and you will still have the cooking processors in your inventory even after finishing the mission itself. So pretty awesome stuff, and it's especially useful for early gamers who don't want to waste any salvage data on anything but the most essential upgrades. Moving on to number 2, since we're still on the subject of cooking, do not underestimate the power of cooking in this game, especially since it provides some really powerful buffs, including infinite sprint as well as infinite jetpack. In this case, I'm going to focus on 2 very easy recipes that can be done even early on in the game, and these are of course mystery stew for the infinite sprint and the bread recipe for the infinite jetpack. Let's start with the mystery stew, since this is the easiest and it only requires one basic material, which is meat from animals. So in this case, what you'll want to do is to go in, kill a bunch of creatures and get all of that meat, and then start processing it with your cooking processor. In turn, this will provide you the processed meat, and you can combine processed meat with one another to create the mystery stew, and this is both going to give you that infinite sprint for 10 seconds as well as healing some of your HP. The second one is going to be the bread recipe, and even though this is going to require a few more mats on top, it is going to be more important for that infinite jetpack. In this case, you're going to require 2 basic materials. One is Fecium. You can get this very easily from simply feeding creatures and then picking up their poop, and the second one is going to be frost crystals, which are self-explanatory, and you get these from frost planets in abundance. The process is going to be pretty straightforward. First, you're going to process Fecium into wild yeast, and then you're going to process frost crystal 2 times, first time into glass grains and then into refined flour, and it's this refined flour combined with the wild yeast that you need in order to create the dough in the processor, and then further process that into the final product, which is of course the bread. And congratulations, you got 2 very powerful buffs right off the gate in the first few hours of the game, which are invaluable even in the end game. Let's move over to number 3, and the surprise that I actually got a few days ago when I realized that there's so many of you guys that didn't know that No Man's Sky actually has a build camera and a size/rotation adjustment tool for its build menu. So this is something that is going to tremendously help you out when building structures and not wanting to be restricted by the movements of your character or the rules of gravity that apply to it. So let's start with the build camera. You can activate this on the PC version of the game by pressing C on your keyboard or L3 on your controller, and this is going to detach the view from your character and let you pretty much control the camera on all the 4 axes. But from here on, it's pretty easy to go in and just place down any base part you want without being restricted by your character's movement, but you will be restricted by the zone, so there is a limit to how far you can go away from your character with the actual build camera, but otherwise it's still pretty far and still pretty useful. The second one is going to be the resize/rotation adjustment tool, which can be activated by pressing and holding Alt key on the PC version of the game, or pressing and holding L1 and R1 on your controllers. So this should work for all of the versions of the game as well, but this in turn will open another menu that lets you control the rotation on both X and the Y axis, as well as increasing or decreasing the current item size. Of course, not all of the items can be resized, some of them can only be rotated, but it's still extremely useful to do this, and at least for the PC version of the game you will use W and S in order to increase or decrease the size, as well as the mouse wheel in order to rotate the item, and the D-pad as well as the bumper for the controllers. But otherwise it's going to give you unprecedented control over the way you will build your structures and set up those interior designs to your liking. At number 4, you can actually find abandoned space stations in No Man's Sky, and even systems that lack a space station altogether. And in this video I'm going to show you how to find both of these. First of all, let's start with the abandoned space stations, since these look pretty unique. They look, well, kind of ruined, and they also are abandoned since there's nobody living inside of them, but you will find some really cool stuff over there. So in order to find abandoned space stations, you will need both an economy and a conflict scanner installed and working on your ship, because you will be looking for systems that list all of the data under their previews except for the entry for conflict. Once you do find one of these systems that lists entry data unavailable under the conflict section, go in and see if it holds an abandoned space station. Chances are that it does, and you can go in and immediately explore it, find some, lore elements in there, and also kinda take a look at how space stations used to look in the past, because this is a throwback at how space stations used to look like back in the old days before Next Update was even a thing. Moving on to number 5, you can actually get many of those strange structures from anomaly planets as souvenirs and place them on display on your base. These in fact are called stabilized glitches. There's 11 in total, with 1 for each of the anomaly type planets that exist in the game, and you can grab these really easily and place them anywhere on your base without much restriction. The fastest way to do this is of course by searching anomaly planets in red, green or blue systems, land on one and start looking for one of these icons, the yellow one with the question mark inside of it, as this will point you towards a stabilized glitch, and all of the stabilized glitches are going to be specific to their own planet. So on crystal planets you will find crystals glitches, and the same is going to go for bubbles, mushrooms and pretty much all of the rest as well. And you can also pick them off really easily with the middle click mouse button or with the equivalent on your controller. Moving on to 6, maybe you knew this, maybe you didn't, but there is a trick to build your base above the ground level. As a matter of fact, you can build it as high up as the outer atmosphere, and if you glitch it enough you can also build at the edge of space, which is going to put your character into trouble, but it's also going to make your base look very cool. So if you want to build one of these, the process is really easy. Start from the ground with a base and start building stairs upwards. Go up until the limit of the base when you cannot build anything anymore, and from inside that limit build some more stairs up until you cannot anymore. From here on you will exit the limit of your current base, go up until the last stair, and here is where you will put down the second base computer and claim your next base. The reason you'll want to do it in this way is because otherwise there's going to be an interference between those two base computers and you won't be able to place down the second base. Also consider placing down some flat platforms so that you can land over here again and delete the previous bases that you're not actually using outside of, just getting in the upper atmosphere. But you will repeat this process a couple of times with like a couple more bases, as in go in, upwards, build base computers, set them on platforms, and then once you reach the upper atmosphere, which is going to be indicated by the fact that once you reach it, you're not going to even be able to enter the build menu anymore, this is where you will build your final base. So try to build it below there, just place the base computer somewhat below that so that you can actually create, a more sizable base. But from here on it's pretty simple. You can pretty much create it in space as long as you have like an initial platform to start from, and you can build anything as simple or complex as you wanted it to be, like a space station, a floating house, or maybe just like a little tile over there for you to land. It's your option, but I do recommend also going back on the same stairs that you just created and delete the previous bases that you used in order to get up, because if you do this, it's also going to delete all of those stairs that you have created, and that would otherwise take you quite a long time to re-delete, because reaching the upper atmosphere is going to take you roughly 15 minutes with this method. Moving on to number 7, something that I didn't find out until recently when I saw a thread over on Reddit. You can actually go through the portals using just your ship. You don't even have to climb out of it in order to enter the portal. So it's pretty easy, just adjust your ship, try to go as low as possible and aim for the middle of that portal so that the nose of the ship enters it. If you time this right and if you angle it correctly, you are going to pretty much shoot on the other side with your entire ship, but your character in this case is going to be on the ground and the ship is going to be next to it, just like how it is when you normally walk in it. It's nothing major, but it is very helpful if you don't want to waste time exiting your ship and then entering the portal and just doing it in one go. Number 8, something that I find very fun and also quite rewarding is visiting airless planets or moons or anything that doesn't have an atmosphere anymore, and there's 2 reasons for why I'm saying that. First of all, some time ago Hello Games introduced lower gravity for anything that doesn't have an atmosphere. On these types of planets you can jump very high up, you float for very long, and pretty much all of your actions are slower like how you would expect them to be on a moon-like scenario. So very fun, and something that players did want in the old versions of the game, but we eventually did get it. The second reason is because you can get a ton of alien eggs this way, which are a very good source of nanite clusters as well as money, and it's easy to spot these since the terrain tends to be pretty flat, there's not much atmosphere, or well, at all, so there's nothing blocking your view. You can see them from very high up, and you can also shoot them from high up so that you don't have to encounter all of those annoying alien horrors. But otherwise, airless moons is a very fun activity that I enjoy doing from time to time. Number 9, there's sentient minerals in the game. Maybe something that you knew about, maybe something that you didn't know, but sometimes it happens for you to go in, try to mine a rock or something, and that rock just bursts out of the ground, grows legs, and starts running away in panic. That is something that was added actually in the Visions update, and the easiest way to find them is to land on any planet, especially lush planets, and start mining the rocks. Just do this for a couple of minutes and eventually you will stumble across one that will start growing legs and run away from you, and they are indistinguishable from regular rocks until they start running. Even if you scan them, you will not see if these are creatures or not until they actually spawn out of the ground. But otherwise, it's a pretty fun thing to see, and definitely a shocker the first time it happens to you. Anyway, this is pretty much it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you did, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'm gonna see you guys in the next one.